G'day guys, got another round of cheap crap from China for you, so let's go through it. All this merry stuff today from the postie. Expansion board module, label tape, mechanical parts, nuts, ribbon, replacement parts, and metal tube. I know what some of those things are, but let's dive in. Aha! For those vapors out there. We have various coil wire and a tank. This doesn't look sealed, but at the same time okay. See, I started vaping nearly 6 months ago now, and it was very easy to switch from cigarettes to vaping, and I've been loving it ever since. So this thing is, yeah, quite fancy. I'm not a huge fan of the really wide bore mouthpieces, but that's alright. See if we can do a bit better on the focus there. Okay, do you seriously have to build it in there? Surely not. Apparently, yes. Unless this outside comes off. Alright, that's going to be a bit of a pain in the ass, but whatever. But yeah, so this is a dripper rather than a tank. So with wick on either side, it sits in and you literally drop juice in from the top. Or in the air holes, I guess. But well, really, the air holes don't. Oh yeah. They sometimes seem to not match up with each other. I do like this tapered air hole design. I'm not sure if you can see that too clearly, but seems like it gives you a bit more control over the airflow, rather than that style, which is more traditional. Yeah, and a little bag of bits, spare screws, spare O-rings, little screwdriver. Yeah, why not? And then this fancy wire. So this is Alien Clapton, made from stainless steel wire, so it should be usable in a temperature controlled vape. But if you can see that one, it's sort of flattened out coils. Whoa, that probably wasn't the best idea. Very springy wire. So yeah, it's small on that dimension, but then quite wide on that dimension. And it's individually made up of stranded turns. Yeah, still doesn't come out very well on the camera. There we go. So yeah, this is alien Clapton. I don't know where they come up with these names, but whatever. Will do me, and this one is fused Clapton. Clapton, I've no idea where the name comes from, but aside from good old Eric, it seems to be a case of wire made from multiple other wires, sort of joined together, twisted together, whatever. And so this stuff is a similar sort of deal, but this time a bit more uniform on the coil size. It's the same in either dimension. More of a spiral pattern. But I'll give those a go later. Cool. Next up, we have nuts. These are actually the corner pieces for the 2020 extruded aluminium sections. T-slot or V-slot, which is sort of modern day Lego, I guess. But we use it for building 3D printers and CNC machines and all sorts of toys. Yeah. Very simple one. Clear label plastic, which I sourced from China because, well, these are, I think it was $35 a roll they want for it at the local shop. I think these were like $3 a roll from China. So yeah, not really competitive when you can shop online. And I think this is more of the same. Yep, white plastic and white paper. I've been using the paper ones for my surface mount book. Just looking around for it. Yep, there it is. So this thing. Which holds all my surface mount parts now, at least everything on cut tape. So I've got, yeah, capacitors of 1206 and 0805, all different values. Inductors, small little coils, various ICs, voltage regulators, LEDs, transistors and diodes, well, MOSFETs and diodes, they're BJT transistors, more plain diodes, this is another set of diodes that I have to go through and label. Yeah, and I've got another probably 5 meters of tape of various parts that I still need to put into that book that I didn't want to do because they're all in labelled sections at the moment, but if I take them out of their bags then I won't know what the hell they are, because SMD markings are annoying when you have a lot of various parts. What was this one? Electronic parts. How descriptive. Yeah, this is another one of these microwave RF motion sensing modules. Focus, you fuck. No, you don't want to. Okay. There we go. So yep, this BIS chipset seems to be pretty ubiquitous. They use it in the infrared modules as well as in these. And not sure if you'll be able to see it. White silk screen makes it very hard to see the traces on a board. But you can see a little bit of RF voodoo going on there. But yeah, long story short, you mount this on a board, it sends out a microwave signal, sort of very high frequency RF, I think they're about 10 gigahertz, and then captures the reflections, and it just detects the phase skew between the outgoing and incoming signals to try and measure how far away something is. And if something's in range and, more importantly, moving, then the output goes high for a short time. So I've used these to build all sorts of toys, from solar garden lights to motion sensors for home security. The main good thing about them is that they don't need a clear line of sight. So for the case of the solar garden light, I was able to mount it within a waterproof box, so you couldn't see the sensor externally at all. It just magically worked whenever someone moved close to it. Well then, electronic parts indeed. This is another one of the same type of modules. I believe the other one may have been 5 gigahertz and this one's 10 gigahertz. These are slightly fancier modules, a bit more expensive. The basic modules go for around $1 mark. They're very, very cheap. Whereas these ones I think are about $3. So I haven't yet tried these at all. There's absolutely no... Oh, yeah, okay, we've got 5 volt ground, ground, and IF. IRP divided by 13, ZH100. I would normally assume IF to mean intermediate frequency, but in this case maybe interface, because it doesn't seem to have any other output pin. And these are a bunch of rotary encoders. Very simple, with the push button. If you don't know how these work, basically, long story short, you've got 3 pins here. You put ground onto one of them, and the other 2 you'll hold up with pull-up resistors. And every time you move this a notch over, it will pulse both of the pins to ground. But the timing at which it does that, it will pulse sort of this one, then this one, or this one, then this one. And if that tells you what direction the knob has been turned. It's pulsing this one, then this one, then it's being turned this way. Pulsing that one, then this one, then that one, yeah. That is a little bit of an oversimplification. Some of these devices, they actually have like a 4-step sequence that they go through where they'll pulse this one, then 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 this one. Yeah, it becomes a whole thing, especially when you start looking at half increments. Sort of this does click into position, but it is possible to determine the position loosely. I think there's 1 step in between clicks, which is mainly used for velocity control, so that when you turn a knob faster, it picks that up as a faster move and can move more increments in one go. They're pretty widely used now for electronic devices for inputs for volume controls and on oscilloscopes for all your different axis controls. Variety of different toys. Just handy to have. These ones also have a D type shaft with the flat on it. The other type you can get has a spline sort of gear tooth shaft on it. Much of a muchness really in terms of how well they grip, but you will find that knobs are either made for one or the other. You can generally use the splined knobs on the D shafts, but they don't grab on as nicely. And more vaping equipment. This one is a proper Unedited tank, which, for those of you who don't vape or have just started vaping or are looking at starting vaping, Unedited has been a pretty good brand. I did have some problems with the Coolfire 4 I got out of China. It does seem to be a genuine device, but I believe it's old stock. And they did have a problem on launch with their original models where the firmware of the chip inside it will very occasionally lock up. If it locks up, then it can stay in a state where the coil is trying to fire and basically constantly trying to run tens of amps through this tiny little coil without any end in sight. So that can be, yeah, quite a big problem. That's on the Coolfire 4 TC100, which, yeah, I wouldn't really recommend getting because of that potential issue. If you get it from a approved reseller or such, then yeah, you shouldn't have that drama because they have since fixed it. But they don't provide any support for the old models that are already in the market. They've recalled the faulty version from their official resellers, so anyone third party selling them, that's on their own back. But what I have done is, this is the newer vape that I use, a Coolfire Ultra, which is rated up to 150 watts. The battery inside, instead of it being 2 lithium batteries in parallel, this is 2 lithium batteries in series, so it has a maximum voltage. You can see there it's 7.6 volts. If you'll focus for me, you piece of shit. So I'm at 7.85 at the moment, 7.86. You will find that basically the higher voltage gives you a much wider range of coils that you can use. So you can use this from the sub-ohm, like 0.1 ohm coils, all the way up to coils that are 5 ohm and stuff like that. And it will still be able to deliver a fair amount of power into it. The battery in it lasts longer. It's like a 4 amp hour battery, I believe, at 8.4 volts. So it's got a lot of power behind it. Lasts multiple days of vaping the way I vape. And so this is a tank for it. You can see the one I've got on top here is quite different. They're both Unedited tanks, but this is an older design. The problem with this style of tank is that the liquid chamber itself unscrews from the bottom. This bottom ring unscrews from the glass. And so you have to hold it upside down, unscrew that part, take that out, then you can fill that piece with liquid. On these tanks, the top can unscrew. And so you can leave it attached to your vape, just take this top off, put a bit more fluid in the outside chamber there, screw it back together, and you're good to go. On the other hand, you've got down the bottom of it the coil. So if you don't know much about vaping, this is a pre-made coil, fairly common. They have a specific thread on the bottom which is shared among pretty much every vape. Air gap in the bottom, wicking holes for the fluid to come in through, and then this is where you get the vape discharge. And so there's a coil around the inside, and then it's wrapped with cotton outside of that, and this gauze on top is a spit back guard, I think they call it, which isn't for your spit, it's for when the coil spits. Basically when you suddenly heat the coil up from room temperature to hundreds of degrees, you can get some juice will pop and sort of instantly boil, and you get this real sort of pressure wave, and it can spit juice out of the chamber and into your mouth, and then you get hot juice in your mouth, which isn't a very pleasant experience. So that spit guard's there to sort of try and prevent that. The other thing that I've been playing around with lately is these tops, little drip tip they call it, and so you can get all sorts of different tips. This is one of the fancier ones that I've had here, and so they're pretty much interchangeable. There seems to be two main types, 510 and 810 being the diameter, and so the other tank that I got in here, this has a much wider bore tip. This would be an 810, whereas both these tanks are 510. So yeah, if you are considering getting into vaping, I do highly recommend the Coolfire Ultra. You can get it for about, I think, 70 Australian dollars, so you should be able to find it for about 50 US. Great battery life, it's been a great unit, it's lasted through quite a while already. Temperature control, it'll do temperature control on nickel and stainless steel and titanium coils. It will do wattage mode on Canthal. Well, it'll do wattage mode on whatever coil you want to throw at it. And you can adjust it all the way up to 150 watts for some of the more insane parallel coil builds or very large coil builds. But so I've been collecting quite a few different tanks because it seems to be quite handy that you can, if you want to have a whole heap of different flavours on tap, it's quite a pain in the ass to clean out the tanks and change flavours. If you have a compatible flavour, like if you're changing from like a vanilla custard to a banana custard, it's not a problem, you just do it. Put the new banana custard flavour in there and vape it. But if you want to change from like a fruity flavour to a dessert flavour or to the bakery sort of flavours, I've got one that's sort of chocolate raspberry. It's a very sort of strong flavour, so if I wanted to change that to a fruity berry sort of flavour or banana or something like that, then yeah, it's not very clean and easy to change over flavours. You get this interim for about 2 tanks full of juice where it just tastes like shit. So what I've been doing is I have now probably 15 different tanks, each with different flavours in, and so that way it makes it a lot easier to change over flavours, both between the middle of a tank and also once a tank runs dry I can put a compatible flavour in that tank rather than a fresh one. But okay, that seems to be the mailbag for today. That's all I got. So I'll no doubt be back around on Monday with some more toys. Usually Monday's the biggest day for Australia Post. I think I still have some 70 items on their way. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.